Hey pups, Pup Copper here today with another episode of Satisfactory stuff. So this is going to be a little different. Instead of doing stuff in our Pup Copper Games playthrough world, I'm going to talk to you about alternative recipes. Jeez, if I can get that out of my snout there. So this may be helpful. I mean, you've seen me chase after these recipes, before in some of my earlier videos, and you watch Kibits or Total Clips, you'll see them doing hard drive hunting, throwing them in the MAM, unlocking stuff, and this is just going to be an overview video and showing you kind of how you can stack different alternative recipes together that kind of fit together. So with the idea of helping you not just in the early game, but mainly in the mid to late games when the higher value alternative recipes become really, really useful and really allow you to exploit your supply chains. So I guess first off, where do you get these hard drives to unlock alternative recipes? You get them from these drop pods. Again, you've seen me hunt these before, and there are a handful of pods on the map that don't require anything to be shoved in them or attached to them to get them to work. They'll just, provided you can get past the boss that usually guards one of them, you can get it real easily. And it's auto-saving now. But for the most part, a lot of the pods, almost, I'd say 90% of the pods on the map require something. So that can either be an item of some type, or a bit of power, or a lot of power. Depending where you are on the map, the drop pods will typically, require different things. So, like, if a drop pod is near one of the starting locations on the map, it'll typically require something that's, something you produce in tier 0 or up through tier 2. Very newbie accessible, provided you can get past whatever's guarding it, you can get the stuff real easily. Then, as you get into drop pods that are located in more out-of-the-way places, or where there's a stronger boss guarding it, like a boss hog or an alpha spitter, it's going to typically require a more complex item. So, like, stuff over in the swamp, which is one of the more, considered to be one of the late mid-game, early late-game areas of the map. There are pods over there that will require, like, turbo motors and supercomputers. Those are the definition of late-tiered items. So, yeah, it really just depends. And then there's, sometimes the developers are a little lenient. There are a couple of drop pods that are in really out-of-the-way places where they've made the requirements really low, like you just need to throw some rotors or, something simple like that in there. And I guess the other thing to mention would be, I don't know what the count is up to now, but there are drop pods on the map which require items to open them that are not currently loaded in the game. So these are the drop pods that are locked through, with the superposition oscillators, the quantum computers, things like that. When Coffee Stain launched the Fixmas event during the holiday season of 2020, what they did was, as part of their little advent calendar scheme, they did put quantum computers and superposition oscillators in there so players could go and unlock the final items or final drop pods on the map if they hadn't already kind of cheated their way to the final alternative recipes. Because there are ways to do it, and I will admit, this save game that I'm working in right now, I got fed up not being able to get the aluminum recipes I needed, and I just used the Satisfactory calculator website to unlock the alternative recipes I needed. And yeah, so yeah, we're just going with that. Anywho, I picked this site clean, so we're just gonna go. I'm gonna show you the factory that's in this game. I am, as you can see there, I've got a milestone. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. I've already gotten into tier 7 in this save, and eventually we'll get there with the Pup Copper Games Dune Desert save through, provided Update 5 doesn't completely bork at all. And we just follow these pipes down. And you'll see that I have this water going into a random refinery complex here. And I'm going to step a little bit away. Now, if you have any idea where I am on the map, there are 2 normal Caterium nodes over here. So, if you're new to the game, you may be asking, why in the world are you combining Caterium and water? Well, that's a good question, because one of the alternative recipes that you can unlock allows you to refine Caterium in the refinery by washing it with water, so that you get a higher yield from your Caterium ore. So, in other words, you get more ingots per unit of ore. And there are a bunch of recipes for limestone, copper, and iron, which do similar things. And in fact, all 3 of those also have recipes in the refinery. Here, I can click over here and scroll down, because I think I have them all unlocked. Oh wait, they're up top there. Yeah, so there's the concrete. You've got an alternate for quartz crystal as well. And then there's an alternate for iron and an alternate copper. Now, this brings up a great point about the alternative recipes. Don't assume that just because you've unlocked an alternative recipe that it's automatically the best recipe. In absolute terms, this pure copper ingot recipe is kind of firmly in the middle between smelting a copper ingot and using the copper alloy alternate recipe in the foundry, where you mix it with iron ore, so that you, in effect, turn a resource that's scarcer than iron into a more plentiful finished resource by mixing it with a very plentiful, very abundant resource. So, yeah, just because a recipe has an alternate doesn't necessarily mean it is better in absolute terms. However, there are use cases. Even when the recipes appear to be complete garbage, there are use cases for them. And while I do accept Kibitz's criticism, if you'll watch him play for long enough, you'll see him unlocking things and going, that's garbage, that's garbage. And yes, in absolute terms, some of the recipes are garbage. They make no sense of why they're in the game or why they remain in the game. We'll just keep following this back to my electronics production area. But when you view it in context of not just like when you view it more modularly, there are use cases for all the alternative recipes, and they each have their own cases where they'd fit in. They may not be the best fit in every situation, but there are cases where they may be useful. Like, now the wet concrete, the pure iron ingot and the pure copper ingot. I will just add a little footnote here while we're talking about it. There are certain late tier production chains where you end up with water as a byproduct. So like aluminum is one of them, or not the aluminum sheets themselves, but the aluminum scrap, which you then smelt into aluminum sheets. Anyways, you end up with water as a byproduct. You have to get rid of that somehow. Now, some players like to fold that water back into their original system, their original production chain, just to reduce the number of water extractors they need to build. Kibitz, this is so blindingly obvious that I can't believe I hadn't thought of it, and Kibitz apparently didn't realize it until his latest playthrough when he was working on nuclear. A great way to get rid of excess water is to use the wet concrete, pure ingot, wet concrete or pure ingot recipes to transform that water into something that can go into the awesome sink. That is mind-blowing, and that is such a fantastic use of it. So, yeah. So now this right here you can see is my electronics production facility, and it's manned almost entirely by alternate recipes now that I think about it. And it uses a lot of copper products, but here's where I'm using a lot of alternates to really get kind of a bang for the buck. So the first one I use up here is this entire factory is producing a metric ton of copper sheets it's producing tons of wire and all this, that, and the other to produce circuit boards, to produce AI limiters, computers, heavy modular frames. And I'm powering this off of one unclocked pure copper node and half an iron node. So this is the copper alloy ingot recipe I was telling you about, where you take copper and you feed some iron in with it, and you get a ridiculous amount of copper ingots out of it. So when you feed copper into a smelter, that's a 1-to-1 trade-off. One unit of ore equals 1 ingot. When you put it into a refinery, I think it's something on like a 1 to 1.5 output, something like that. So leave a note in the comments saying that I'm wrong, please. I don't mind. Here, you put in 1 bit of copper ore, you get 2 ingots out of it. That is amazing. That's 2 to 1. 2 to 1. That is amazing. So, yeah, that's kind of the power of alternate recipes, because they allow you to more efficiently utilize resources. So we'll take the trip down here. By the way, this is the little spot in the northern forest where there are 4 pure iron nodes, and there's some oil over there, a pure limestone, 2 pure quartz nodes. It's a good starting location, but it's also a good location for a late game or a mid game electronics factory, because you've got everything here you could need, even if you're using vanilla recipes, which I don't really recommend for this. So, anyways, moving on. So you'll see here, I have even more refineries. I have 15 of them to be exact. So, there we go, the game just needed to save. So, these are all 15 of these refineries are making copper sheets, and yeah. So I'm just bringing a ton of water, bringing down my copper, and it's just being transformed into copper sheets. And then these first 2 rows of 5 right here, those are feeding my circuit board production with the the silicon circuit board alternate that requires copper sheets and silica. And here I'm producing another row of copper sheets, which are going to my AI limiter production. This is kind of just like, I had this left over, and I had some quick wire left over, so it was a good thing to do here. It helps keep me in AI limiters for the foreseeable future, especially when I want to scale up to supercomputers and other fun things. And then it all just outputs out this way. And as soon as I exit out of here, we'll go up, up, up. I also have conveyor belts weaving in and out of here for other things, just because it's easier just to route it along wall segments than anything else. You'll see that belt right over there is an iron belt that goes to my steel production, which is also using an alternate recipe to generate steel ingots, which is great. Let's see. Yeah, this takes me to the first level. I actually have to think about that now, because this is just kind of grown. Alright. So, my computer setup above takes 100 circuit boards per minute, and I've got 8 assemblers that are not overclocked, producing circuit boards using the alternate recipe. So it's 27.5 per minute of copper sheets per assembler, and 27.5 per minute of silica, and they get made into 12.5 circuit boards per minute. It's great. Silica isn't an alt because I just don't like the silica alts. They're just kind of meh. But, I may, as I scale up to nuclear, I may have a reason to use them. And then over here, which is, I'm using quick wire along with the other remaining line of copper sheets to produce my AI limiters. And a good chunk of my quick wire is actually using the remaining copper production because there's an alternate which lets you combine smaller amounts of caterium and a small bit of copper to really get a lot of, I think it's like 90 quick wire per minute per machine, and it's just insane. And this is just kind of the runoff quick wire. We'll go upstairs and I'll show you where I'm really using most of it. Alright, so this is my computer level. Now here, I'm using the circuit boards, and I am, yeah, and circuit boards, quick wire, and rubber. Rubber is just the vanilla recipe. Quick wire is mostly just that copper and deuterium recipe that I mentioned. And circuit boards, and we're making 33.75 computers per minute. I think I'm making like 40 or 14 computers per minute or something like that. Something ridiculous. Yeah. Maybe I'm not making enough circuit boards. I thought I did. But this is kind of what happened. This is kind of one of the pitfalls of managing a factory from a spreadsheet. But anyways, excess is routed down there, and everything's great. Which one goes up? I think it's this one. And here we are. This is the mess that the mess that is my heavy modular frame manufacturing. So we're using the heavy encased frame alternate, which trades out screws. You know, I used to not believe in getting rid of screws, but now that I have made a conscious effort to do so, I firmly believe in it. The only thing in my whole like electronics factory thing here that does use screws is one reinforced plate assembler over here, and yeah, and I've got that. You know, I've got the wonderful cast iron or steel screw recipe, I should say, where I'm making exactly this, and it's just working. I mean, everything is, yeah. So this is kind of the power of alternate recipes. You get a lot of what people in economics and finance call a multiplier effect, that you start just putting these different recipes together. I just booted the microphone. You put these recipes together in ways that maybe weren't necessarily intended, but which complement each other well, and it just works really well. Yeah, and I'm using an alternate here, steel frame, so I don't have to produce a whole lot of steel beams. I'm producing mainly steel pipe, and it's working. How's this one work? Yeah, this guy's actually, for being the last machine in the array, it's doing pretty well. So yeah, I'm just making alts. A ton of alternate recipes to get everything I want to make. Is this one down? I need to go down. Yep, this goes down. Whee! Now, in setting up my steel setup, I think I may have talked about this before, but I'm going to show you what I think is one of the most powerful alternative recipes in the game, and that is the coke steel ingot. So this takes petroleum coke and iron ore and manufactures 100 steel ingots. So it is consuming more iron ore, and it does require reprocessing from oil residue, but you get a huge amount of steel out of it. So if you set it up in the right location, like where I am right here, where you kind of have everything kind of nice together, and you're generating a lot of heavy oil residue as runoff from another process, it's really helpful. I mean, this array here is generating like 600 ingots per minute. It is nuts. Yeah. Huh. That's interesting that the efficiency is that low. Yeah, it's an overflow system. It will overflow eventually. I didn't say my belting was perfect. And you know, it's also management by spreadsheet is a thing. So yeah, stuff happens. Anyways, this all just gets funneled down to a train station down there, and it just gets shuttled off to the storage hub at my main base. Now, I'm going to take the safe way down to ground over here, and I'll show y'all off my newest creation. I don't know why it sounds like water there, even though there's visibly no water. That seems like it's just a little missing texture or something. So here's the water extractor for the setup that's doing all that nonsense over there. And the train loops around like maybe once every 5 minutes, and look how many computers I've got. That's crazy. Yeah, a decent amount of heavy modular frames. Not like a ridiculous number, but it's decent. So you may be asking, where am I going? Well, you can start to see it in the distance there. And yeah, that's the silica setup. I'm only using one of the pure nodes right now. I may have to use the other in the future. Don't know. We'll see. And keep in mind, everything I'm doing over here, it is not overclocked yet. It's pretty well balanced. So yeah, it's great. So this is the beginning of my aluminum setup. And it's kind of half-baked at the moment. It's getting there. Yeah, and it's not powered on too. So this is a great example of how powerful alternates are. So here I'm using the sloppy alumina alternative recipe, which takes bauxite and water and reprocesses it into an alumina solution. That's in contrast to the vanilla alumina solution recipe here, which takes less bauxite, I believe more water, and only nets you like half the alumina solution. It's not great. And then you also have to deal with silica. Again, this is a case where people just tend to loop it back into further upstream into production, because the vanilla aluminum ingot recipe requires silica in the foundry, but you need more than what we're outputting here. But anyways, I just do away with the silica entirely and use alumina. Oh wait, wrong one. Sloppy alumina. Okay, so this one does require more water and more bauxite, but you get a better yield out of it. Anyways, I think this is one of the most powerful recipes, and you'll see that we output 240 alumina solution, and then you pair it with aluminum scrap. It takes the exact amount. It takes the exact amount, and it's perfect. And then the amount of coal that it takes is only 120 per minute. So, you know, the numbers actually start working out pretty well. If you manage to either tap 2 pure nodes at 400 per minute each, or you get some combination of nodes that gets you an output of 800 per minute of bauxite, and you can find yourself like 2 pure coal nodes or 4 normal coal nodes with Mark II miners, you're set. You're set. And there are a bunch of places on the map which actually do facilitate that. I chose this area just because it was just going to be better for transportation to my main base in the Dune Desert, and it'd be near some other manufacturing that I wanted to be close to. But I was initially considering setting up shop on south of the the Gold Coast, where there's all that oil there, because your two pure bauxite nodes will dump out onto that coastline, and there's 4 pure coal nodes not too far away. So, yeah, there are recipes like this that pair together well. And then, of course, there's an alternate in the blender for aluminum ingot or aluminum scrap, which I'm not as thrilled about looking into at it more, just because it requires sulfur, and if you intend to progress onto nuclear, you do need to make good use of all the game's sulfur deposits. So, you know, and that's one of the rare resources. I think uranium's the rarest, then bauxite. I think sulfur is like in the top 5 rarest, something like that. So yeah. But yeah, that's just kind of an overview of alternates and how you can start stacking them together to get efficient layouts. And yeah, what's your favorite alternative recipe? Let me know in the comments down below. However you're watching it on whatever device you're watching this on. Anyways, if you liked this video, please paw that like button, and don't forget to boop the subscribe button so you don't miss out on more videos from me, Pup Copper. Arroo!